Introducing Mr. Pramod Bhasin, a prominent figure in both business and social impact spheres. As the founder of Genpact LLC and co-founder of Asha Ventures and Clix Capital, he's been a trailblazer in the business process outsourcing industry. With over 25 years at GE and GE Capital, including roles as president of GE Capital in Asia and India, his expertise spans continents. Currently serving as chairman of ICRIER, co-founder of Clix Capital and chairperson of Data Security Council of India, his influence extends to economic policy and financial services. Additionally, his role as co-founder of Asha Ventures highlights his commitment to social impact investments in education, healthcare, and financial inclusion. As an operating partner in Kedaara and chairperson of various organizations supporting underprivileged elderly, his dedication to both business success and societal welfare is evident. It's truly a pleasure to welcome Mr. Pramod Bhasin as our keynote speaker for the World Business Angels Investor Week 2024. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to speak at the World Business Angel Investors Week, particularly with your theme on diversity and inclusion in entrepreneurship, which I think is a theme that is much talked about, but vastly overdue because of the fact that we're not very diverse or inclusive, particularly in entrepreneurship, particularly in startups in India. The topic I thought I would talk about is building high-performing organizations and teams. It's an interesting topic because it is a science and an art. And it is very hard to digest, very hard to learn, very hard to teach, and very hard to emulate. Apart from the idea of the startup or the product itself, nearly 1 in 5 startups fail because they cannot build a great organization or have the teams work together properly or manage the organization in a way that they don't lose talent. It remains an Achilles heel for not just startups, but companies across the world. Many fail because of product fits, as I said earlier. But the fact is, even if they don't fail, they may not reach their optimum stage or levels that they could if they don't work and build a fantastic organization. Couple that with the failure rates we all suffer from when we are hiring people. In general, when I ask teams of leaders from different companies what their hiring success or failure rates are, most people will tell me that the success rate is below 50%. That, in an area which all of us would agree is one of the most vital cogs in any organization or in any startup, wherever it may be. So for me, I would suggest, to try and keep it simple, suggest 3 key elements that I would suggest we could focus on. They sound simple, and they are the most complex to achieve. They're harder than execution. They're harder than strategy sometimes. They're extremely hard to tackle, and the challenge lasts forever. It doesn't go away. But firstly, to build great organizations, hire a great set of diverse, talented, insightful, hungry individuals. Hire a lot of women, because honestly, women's workforce participation, particularly in India, is abysmal at around 27%. And we're leaving out half the world's population from our data bank and from the talent base that we have in our organization. How can we do that? Why do we let that persist? Why do we let that happen? Hire more women. They bring diversity, different ideas, different thoughts to the table. They're excellent at what they do, and they multitask far better than most men I know. Hire people unlike yourself. Look for people who are not like yourself. If you're very good at big ideas, find someone who can execute very well. I had the joy and pleasure of being able to work at Genpact, where I led strategy and new ideas, but I had with me a few people who are outstanding at operations and execution. You have to have that mix. They could do things I could never do. I knew that they will always be better than me. In many cases, look for people who are clearly smarter than you. By the way, this starts coming through in interviews. If you do the interviews well, very quickly you begin to think, my God, this guy or this lady is far smarter than I will be, has far better answers to the issues we face, and we should get them. Bring them on board, hire people smarter than you. Certainly try and not hire people who are like you. We're all biased. We all think people like us are the best people with our backgrounds and accents or history or experience. And yet, you need a diverse set of talents. You need people from startups. You need people from organizations. If a startup is growing very fast and scaling, then you need to bring in somebody from an established company who really knows how to do that. And so they're not reinventing the wheel. And you're not reinventing the wheel. If you need to manage a larger team, bring somebody else in who can help you manage large teams. So hire carefully, hire diverse, wonderful talent, and hire people smarter than you. 2, create a wonderful work environment for your employees. Happy, challenged, inspired employees will always deliver great results. Inspired teams, inspired leaders will always deliver great results. They'll rally around each other. They become a family. They get to know each other. They work with each other. They scratch each other's backs. They help each other in times of trouble. You need that resilience. So create an environment where people love coming to work. I'm not saying be soft. Be as tough as you want, but be fair. Reward well. Give them great competition. Give them great challenges. Empower them and let them fly and let them work really well. If you can do that and you create an environment where people love coming to your office and love working with you, you will find that that is of the greatest value, more valuable than capital, more value perhaps often the idea itself. And if you can do that, in times of trouble, you will be able to turn away. I hire and look for people, not just in terms of skill sets, engineer, scientist, coding, programmer, accountant, whatever it is. I look for hunger. I look for energy. I look for curiosity. I look for people who love working with other people, people who are bold, people who will take risks with themselves first, and then with you. 3, build a great culture. This is the hardest thing to do. People talk about this all the time without truly understanding what it means. Building a great culture. I had the good fortune of working under Jack Welch, who was probably one of the foremost guys in this area. And you build a great culture which is very defined for who you are. And you have to decide in that process, what is the kind of culture you want to build. Do you want a team that works together? Do you want individuals who work apart? Do you want to focus on customers, or do you want to take costs out, cheapest price? Do you want to focus on markets or in globally, or do you want to focus on markets in a small area? Do you want to reward adaptability and flexibility and speed, or do you want to award process and rigor of management? These are very clear decisions you have to make. Most of us end up thinking we have to do it all. But the fact is, nobody can do it all. You can't focus on cost while pushing very hard for sales and while growing the business. It won't work. You either need to get very good salespeople in front, or if you got good salespeople, you need to start thinking about costs. And those two don't necessarily go line up all the time. There are phases in an organization. At one time, you may focus on cost, and another time you may focus on the market. And that is where the challenge of building a culture lies, because business tempos change, there's volatility in the business, lots of things change. But building a tactical culture that holds the team together and helps guide them as to how they need to behave and think about business in times of issues or problem solving becomes key. Otherwise, you have the business pulling in many different sides with many different leaders deciding individually and independently how we should tackle a problem. And that's when an organization starts coming apart and it becomes very hard to stitch it all together. Don't fall for cliches. Be open and transparent. Lay it out for everyone to understand. Include them in the process of saying, we'll build an organization, we'll build a great leadership team, and we'll build a culture that is the best in the world. As the founder of Genpact, I spent nearly 50% of my time on organizational issues and people issues. That's true of most major organizations and their CEOs. If you talk to them, they will talk about how much time they spend thinking about who to position where to achieve what goal. If I want to open new centers in China, in Latin America, in other places, I need to find somebody who has the drive, the ambition, the joy, the love of wanting to do that. There is no point taking somebody who would be a misfit and planting them in a role which makes it all the harder for them to achieve success. You may be brilliant as a techie, as a marketing person, or in finance, but ultimately in leadership, you will need to learn and excel at managing people. And doing that with a cutting edge, reading about it, learning about it, being curious about people will drive success. Once you've got a great idea and you're in the market, the next challenge of scaling up is all around building really high-performing organizations. All the best to all of you at your Investor Week. I hope you have a terrific meeting, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your keynote. Thank you.